Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our audio event. Just to make sure you're in the right place, this is Unlock More Marketing Power with Good Design. My name's Matthew Brown, but everybody at Komodo calls me Matty, and I'm a marketing executive here at Komodo Digital. Komodo is a digital agency based in the northeast of England, and with over 20 years of experience creating incredible digital products across web and mobile, we research, design, and build better digital products and services for scaling startups and SMEs that keep them growing. Today, I'm joined by Tyler Hammond, one of our brilliant digital designers here at Komodo. Do you want to say hello, Tyler?
Yeah, thanks, Matty, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. I'm Tyler, a digital designer here at Komodo Digital. I've worked at Komodo for around about 2.5 years now, but I've had about 5 years experience working in the design industry. And during my time at Komodo, I've had the privilege of working on a wide range of projects. So this ranges from user experience and user interface design for clients to some of the branding and digital marketing collateral for Komodo's marketing team. So with that in mind, hopefully I'll be able to provide some insight and some real world examples into how marketing and design collaborate here at Komodo, and how we try to ensure that we're not only creating the right content, but the content has design consistency. And it's also aligned with our brand and our tone of voice as well.
Yeah, nice one, Tyler. In this session, we won't necessarily be focusing on the classic making it pop that you might see, that you might hear thrown around. Having eye-catching visuals can be a key factor in purchase decision. But the aim here is to dig into the impact of UX and UI dynamics that drive more marketing effectiveness for business growth. Now, business growth comes from having a focused strategy and good execution, and design projects have to consider their purpose within a business landscape to achieve their objective. When paired with marketing, it could be to increase revenue, delight customers, or just test a new way of doing things. And something that stuck with me as a marketer is the idea that marketing is the expression of strategy. And if this is indeed true, then design is the body language that helps give form to your market message and draw attention to the value that you offer. So whether you're a budding entrepreneur, a seasoned business owner, or a curious mind eager to explore the intersection of design and marketing, you're in the right place. So get ready to discover methods to increase the chance of marketing success with good design. Just a note, we will leave some time at the end for questions. So I know you can raise your hand throughout the conversation, but if you just want to save that for the end, there will be time to ask some questions. Okay.
Cool. So I think it would be good to start off by talking about design consistency. And I think a good question to kick off here, Matty, is are you able to sort of explain how inconsistent design can affect businesses, and also what steps can be taken to sort of maintain that consistency?
It's a good question to start off with. So I think first it's important to highlight that branding and design consistency isn't just a matter of aesthetics, making it pop. And this isn't groundbreaking information, but it really is important that people understand that a brand is a living entity in your customer's mind. A brand is more than just a logo or a color palette. It's your company's values, it's its personality and the promises that you're making to your customers. But when design elements like colors, fonts, and imagery vary across different platforms or your market materials, it can create some warrant and some serious confusion. Too much inconsistency is basically going to provoke some thoughts that you do not want crossing your customer's mind, like, can I trust this company to deliver what I asked for? How much attention is this company paying? Are they cutting corners, and will that be reflected in the product or service that I receive from them? So it's really important to make sure that you are consistent, and a build-up of these inconsistencies can dilute your brand. It can make it challenging for customers to recognize and remember your brand when up against competitors. And this lack of recognition can lead to mistrust and decreased customer loyalty. So I think the really important thing here is maintaining design consistency requires common visual language that conveys your brand and speaks directly to your audience. Yeah. One of the fundamental steps in doing that, one of the ways that you can do it is creating brand guidelines. Now, these guidelines act as a set of rules that define your brand's visual identity, and this can include specific colors, typography or fonts, logo usage, and actually your tone of voice, how you convey your message and how you want your brand to sound. And by adhering to these guidelines across all your marketing channels, well, that's your website, social media, or if you're feeling a bit old school, your print materials, you can ensure a cohesive and recognizable brand presence. One way that we like to maintain this consistency at Komodo is by setting up a centralized knowledge hub for your brand. We use Notion for this. Me and Tyler are fierce advocates for Notion. And we use this to collaborate and streamline our process. And if you don't have one, I seriously recommend you start to work on that. And if you're using Notion, they have a pre-formatted template which you can use to get started. And having these templated guidelines ensures the entire team, even ones with limited design expertise or the ones or people in your team who aren't necessarily responsible for executing design, can understand and if they need to create visually something visually consistent with your existing within your existing brand. And I think going on a little bit more into the world of UX and UI and product design, Tyler, which is the main focus here, I guess building on the brand guidelines, you are using something like this in product design too, right?
Yeah, that's a great point, Matty. So when you're talking about the branding guidelines, these are just a small part of what we call a design system. So a design system is basically a blueprint that defines not only the look and feel of your brand, but also how it functions and how users experience it. Now, I know this might sound quite obvious, but a lot of businesses still don't get this right, and they never actually build a clear, documented design system. I was recently at a talk where Mark Boyd-Smith, who was talking at Dibby in 2022, he described a design system quite well. And he basically said that a design system provides a shared language that connects everyone in a product development process and gives them the tools to work with each other and with your users as well. Now, basically what this means is it's a rule book for every member of your team to follow across digital and marketing. And these design systems tend to contain everything. So things such as the color palettes, the typography, your logo variations, your button interactions, your reusable code blocks, accessibility standards, and as Matty mentioned before there as well, even the tone of voice. So if you don't have this in place, your team won't be asking questions such as like what colors should go together or what color pairs should never go together for accessibility reasons. What should this button do when I hover over it? Should it change color? Should it get bigger? Should it spin round in a circle? How do we write our words? Is our tone of voice formal or is it playful and concise? And by having a design system, it becomes a detailed rule book in place for your team, which means every single person is on the same wavelength about how the brand should work. And I think that leads us to another point as well, is that I personally believe designers should be spending dedicated time with the rest of the team to basically train everyone involved in the business. So ultimately, if everyone in your organization understands the design system, then your people will start implementing that on a day-to-day basis, not just the designers, but the marketing team, developers, and even the sales team and emails, for example. Everything will be aligned correctly.
Yeah, and I think that's a really nice crossover there, where you wouldn't typically think that design, really had a chance to play about with the marketing, but the tone of voice can come across in micro interactions, perhaps in your button copy, and it's a great opportunity to show off your brand personality and just the way that you talk a little bit. And I think, like having that alignment with things like that is really, really crucial. I want to talk a bit more about alignment. And in terms of a process for creating, an unstoppable force between design and marketing, how's best for teams to approach a challenge like this?
Well, every company is sort of different in the way that they work. So you might find that a SME will have a detailed brief that's handed over from the marketing team to the design team, whereas a startup, for example, might take a more collaborative approach where marketing, design, even developers, the broader team all come together and have a workshop session to define a possible design direction for like a new marketing campaign. So each company will have their own preferred approach. And as I'm sure that everyone will be able to relate to in this event, I know that we definitely can at Komodo, is that when the marketing and design team come together at the earliest possible stage in a project, success is way more likely compared to when you just dive straight into a project. And there's a reason for that. And it's because everyone is aligned and on the same page from day one. So on that day, you can discuss any potential blockers or issues straight away, instead of having those difficult conversations halfway through a project or even towards the end of the project. I don't know if you want to elaborate further on that, Matty.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've sort of nailed it on the head there. You definitely do not want to be having a conversation maybe it's 2-3 weeks after you've kicked off a project, and you're like, that would have been really good to know a few weeks ago. So I think it just helps get everything out in the open, and making sure that you've got that internal process and those systems working is really important. And you should always be working on them. You should always be refining them. It's not just a sort of a done. It's something that's finished. It's something that needs to evolve with the team. And one point that I might add to that actually is you want to create a killer brief sheet or a creative brief or whatever you want to call it. Simply put, a document that aligns the creative teams. And this shouldn't really take you an age to do either. It doesn't need to. It wants to cover enough information to get the team on the same page. You can have a template. We've been experimenting recently with ChatGPT to put in the key facts, put in the key information on what we want to get out of a project, and let that do the heavy lifting. And then you can just go through and make some quick edits. But it's actually quite good at pulling something together like that. Just obviously make sure you go through and check it. Don't just run it through ChatGPT and expect that it's going to be perfect. But it can take some of that heavy lifting out, and that wants to contain core information like what's the business objective behind a project, what's the core marketing objective for that piece of work. If it's a landing page, for example, or like a key flow through the website, link the ideas back to your strategy and the marketing funnel so people understand the direction customers need to be traveling in. I say travel on purpose because it is a journey, and why they're taking that route in particular. And that's going to give your UX and UI and your designers in general the business logic, which helps shape their creative process. And talking about creative processes as well as the creative brief also lends an element of stability to a project, and by giving this stability to your creative teams, you're going to give them the confidence to embrace the challenge and free them up to do their best work. So developing on this a little bit, Tyler, do you have, we'll try to think of an example of effective collaboration and play that sort of covers off all of these elements to try and illustrate what points. So do you want to walk through that?
Yeah, so I think for me, when those strategic goals are set by the marketing team, it's our job as designers to ensure that those goals can be met, whilst also aligning with Komodo's design system, accessibility, and consistency as well. And I think a prime example of this is our primary call to action button on the website. So last year, the marketing team had an objective, and they wanted to sort of increase the number of people getting through to our contact form. So their overall goal was to increase form conversion and to drive new business. And as a design team, to help meet those marketing goals, we made the decision to standardize the color of our primary button to yellow. So everywhere you look across Komodo's website, that button is yellow. Now, although this might seem like a very minimal decision, we no longer have that inconsistency across our buttons. They're all exactly the same. So for users visiting our website, it might not immediately strike them as a major change or even something that they would actively notice. But in terms of that user experience, it's a major improvement because this uniformity eliminates any confusion. And when users then visit our website and they see that bright yellow button, they can't miss it because it's a clear and consistent call to action across the whole website. They don't need to second guess what action will happen or what page it'll go to, which in marketing terms often translates to more clicks and ultimately more conversions as well. And in this case, it did. If I remember rightly, we saw about a 15% increase in clicks through to the contact form, and that was in a 2-month period.
Yeah, it's great. And is there any reason why we picked the color yellow?
Well, the yellow color in our brand is probably the most energetic color. So yellow is usually a color that represents optimism and energy, and users will be more inclined to press that button compared to like a navy colored button, for example, which allows you and your marketing team to gain more downloads and signups and more responses through on that contact form. In this case, it was a sort of a very minimal but yet successful change.
Yeah, and I think, I make a joke there about the color of the button being yellow, and I think the color is probably less important in the grand scheme of things, but it does help it to be eye-catching. But for me, I think that the main part of that stands out as a marketer is that the attention-grabbing effect serves a greater purpose within the UX. And what we're actually trying to do here is encourage action along the wider customer journey. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, I think you're right there, Matty. So obviously design is not just about the aesthetics. Design is a tool that can be used to help shape that customer journey and enforce a brand message. So this in particular is where design and marketing come together to create something great and achieve those goals that have been set by the marketing team. So I think the best advice that I would give is to always plan out and decide each individual step that the customer would take through that journey. That is usually marketing's job, but this is where design come in and sort of assist with those interactions and that experience. Because if you want people to get from your social media platform to a link on your website to a contact form, that is a planned route. And for that journey to be successful, consistency is key, because that's what ensures that users not only know whereabouts they are on that path, but where they're going. And I feel like a good analogy here is to think about your favorite book and ask yourself, why is that book so enjoyable to read? And it'll not just be the overall story, but it's more than likely the way that the narrative unfolds throughout, with each chapter seamlessly leading to the next chapter. Now, as a designer, it's my job to understand what is the best approach for users who will be interacting with this page on the website, for example. So one way that UX designers can do this is through user research. And that helps you to understand how your customers are already sort of interacting with that page and engaging with it. And a quick and easy way to start this is to install something called Microsoft Clarity onto your website. So that's just a small segment of code which is added, and it'll give you a visual representation of how your customers and your users are interacting with your website. And it's done through something called a heat map, which shows a map of all the hotspots on the page where people are like really paying the most attention. And you can even do like a replay of where the user's cursor's been on the page, so whereabouts it's navigated. And you can use this data to influence the design approach for any new pages that you create, or redesigning existing ones, or any future marketing campaigns. And you can also do that through mapping out user flows. So dependent on the marketing campaign, we'll even dive into some user personas and some empathy mapping to ensure we are creating the correct experience for that specific marketing campaign.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on there. There's a few points I wanted to maybe expand on and draw on a little bit there. Is you know, we talk about this journey, and it's not always about preparing for that golden pathway, that perfect journey through your website. You know, in an ideal world, everybody, you know, lands on your website, or they land on your product, or they follow that key flow, and they go exactly the way you expect them to. But oftentimes that isn't the case. People will find ways. If there's a way to break it, people will find a way. And I think that's why it's important to have that consistency, because no matter what way they tackle the route, they'll always find the finish line, and it's our job to help them along the way there. I think, going back to your point about user research, and making sure that you're using actual user data, you're exploring like the way that people are actually interacting with your product. I know we keep talking about a website here, but there are other analytics platforms, other click tracking and heat map pieces of software that you can use within apps and different products. But Clarity is just a great one for your website. You install a piece of code, and you know, if you're uncomfortable using something like Google Tag Manager, ask your webmaster, and they'll be able to install it in your website quite quickly, and you can start gathering data immediately. And yeah, it's a really powerful tool. One thing I would say, or a couple of things I would say about using Clarity in particular, is make sure you stay focused. It's super easy to lose time just watching how every single user interacts with your web page. So try and just pick the most relevant ones. And one way you can do that is by using filters. You can actually program it to extrapolate sessions where people entered at a certain point and exited at a certain point. So say they came in at your homepage and they left on the contact page. Going back to the example from before, you can filter out all of the interactions where that was the case, and anything in between. And this is what I was talking about, that golden pathway. You know, you can still find that broad journey, no matter how your users tackled the actual journey itself. So yeah, you can use filters, and then you can filter it by technology, by location, to really zone in on specific target audiences. Say you had specific audiences regionally within the UK, or you were just looking at the UK as a whole, different countries. That's a really powerful tool. And again, just listening, watching what your users do can be really impactful. But I think overall, it's making sure that the design choices are carefully considered and tested when they're implemented. So you can have your hypotheses, you can have your ideas about what you think might work, but it's always great to test these things and make sure you are getting back data. And that's something we talk about quite a lot at Komodo, and we want to find that extra 5 or 10%. You know, as you did with that contact button, that example, that equals more conversations for us with people that we want to talk to, and that's how you get more power from your marketing, through good UX and UI design. Yeah. Now, obviously, we're not a marketing agency, but it's still crucial that our team understands this as a whole. And doing good design is one thing, or writing good code is one thing, but converting that into a winning outcome for our clients is just as important. Understanding the why behind a design choice helps us achieve a better user experience for our clients' users, whilst also finding a way to hit their goal, to hit their business objective, to find the way to achieve that marketing target, or whatever it is we need to achieve. And it's a win-win, and it's exactly the type of result you want to see. Now, imagine you get 10% more of your weekly users through the main sales or conversion action. Let's say you get 5,000 weekly users. What difference is it going to make to your business if you get 500 more people closer every week to converting or capturing data? What if you reduced the amount of people needing support for an internal system because the journey was more well thought out and clear to use? What if the change wasn't just one button, as me and Tyler have said, but a whole UX and UI review of your digital product? Yeah. Like, what difference, what impact could that make? And you know, we're talking 5-10% changes here, but the impact on revenue or achieving what you need to do as a business can be huge. And it's in that refinement where you really start to see the returns of pairing good UX and UI design with marketing and business strategy.
Yeah, it's also about that storytelling as well. So like, design can be used to tell a story, and that narrative usually comes from the marketing team, like yourself, Matty. And that's why it's important for design and marketing to come together at the earliest possible stage, because you literally can't design something without that narrative, and vice versa. You can't tell a narrative without design. So when you guide your customers through this process correctly, it'll just help to build trust, and people trust good design. And if they believe that a company pays that much attention to detail, they'll also trust that they'll do the same for their customers as well.
Yeah, I love that. I love that expression. It's like people trust good design. I think that just really stands true. And I think, you do, I think especially nowadays when you see something that's well designed, that's well thought out, you just do tend to trust it a little bit more.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a wrap on the discussion section. So what I wanted to do now is if anybody had any questions, feel free to raise your hand now, and we can answer those for you. Has anybody got any questions? I'm not seeing any hands go up. Tyler, must have done a good job. Oh, there we are.
Can I speak?
Hello, yes. Hi there. Are you okay?
Sorry, I joined in late. Yes, I'm good. So I wanted to know if there will be a recording.
Sorry, yes, there will be a recording. So we're recording this now, and we'll be uploading it to our YouTube channel either later on today or early tomorrow.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks very much. Thank you very much for that question. Yeah, we'll be recording. We are recording this right now. We'll be uploading it to our YouTube tomorrow. There's actually a great video that Tyler created, which is also on our YouTube channel. You can find about design systems, and how you would go about creating and starting something like that off. But I don't see any more hands going up. So what I would like to say is thanks very much, Tyler.
Yeah, no worries.
I think it's been a good conversation. Hopefully we've given everyone here something to think about. If you have any further points you'd like to clarify, feel free to reach out to me or Tyler on LinkedIn. You can drop us a message, or you can get in touch with the team via email. That's hello@komododigital.co.uk. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn. As I've said, we will be recording and uploading this and putting it up on our YouTube channel, so you can listen back to that. We'll leave a link in the event page. But yeah, thank you everyone for coming along and for listening in. Wherever you are in the world, enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll hopefully see you at one of our next events. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.